Section 9 of the American Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Om123. The American Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. The Man Higher Up by William McHugh and Edwin Balmer. Part 2. You see, I have prepared for you. Schmelz lifted a napkin from a tray holding several little dishes. He took from one of these a bit of caviar and laid it upon Walter's tongue. At the same instant, Trent pushed down the key. The pencils showed a slight commotion, and the spectators stared at this record sheet. "Ah!" exclaimed Scalge. "You do not like caviar?" "How do you know that?" demanded Walter. "The instruments show that at the unpleasant taste you breathe less freely, not so deep. Your finger, as under strong sensation or emotion, grows smaller, and your pulse beats more rapidly." "By the Lord, Walter, what do you think of that?" cried one of his companions. "Your finger gets smaller when you taste caviar." It was a joke to them. Boisterously laughing, they tried Walter with other food upon the tray. They lighted for him one of the black cigars of which he was most fond, and watched the trembling pencils write the record of his pleasure at the taste and smell. Through it all Trent waited, alert, watchful, biding time to carry out his plan. It came when, having exhausted the articles at hand, they paused to find some other means to carry on the amusement. The young psychologist leaned forward suddenly. "It is no great ordeal after all, is it, Mr. Walter?" he said. "Modern psychology does not put its subjects to torture like—" He halted meaningfully. "A prisoner in the Elizabethan age." Dr. Annerly, bending over the record sheet, uttered a startled exclamation. Trent, glancing keenly at him, straightened triumphantly. But the young psychologist did not pause. He took quickly from his pocket a photograph showing merely a heap of empty coffee sacks piled carelessly to a height of some 2 feet along the inner wall of a shed, and laid it in front of the subject. Walter's face did not alter, but again the pencil shuddered over the moving paper, and the watcher stared with astonishment. Rapidly removing the photograph, Trent substituted for it the bent wire given him by Miss Rowan. Then for the last time he swung to the instrument, and as his eyes caught the wildly vibrating pencils, they flared with triumph. President Walter rose abruptly, but not too hurriedly. "That's about enough of this tomfoolery," he said with perfect self-possession. His jaw had imperceptibly squared to the watchful determination of the prize-fighter driven into his corner. His cheek still held the ruddy glow of health, but the white flush had disappeared from it, and he was perfectly sober. Trent tore the strip of paper from the instrument and numbered the last 3 reactions, 1, 2, 3. This is the way the records looked. "Amazing," said Dr. Annerly. "Mr. Walter, I am curious to know what associations you have with that photograph and bent wire, the sight of which aroused in you such strong emotion." By immense self-control, the president of the American Commodities Company met his eyes fairly. "None," he answered. "Impossible. No psychologist, knowing how this record was taken, could look at it without feeling absolutely certain that the photograph and spring caused in you such excessive emotion that I am tempted to give it, without further words, the name of intense fright. But if we have inadvertently surprised a secret, we have no desire to pry into it further. Is it not so, Mr. Trent?" At the name, President Walter whirled suddenly. "Trent? Is your name Trent?" he demanded. "Well, I have heard of you." His eyes hardened. "A man like you goes just so far, and then somebody stops him." As they stopped landers, Trent inquired. "Come, we have seen enough, I guess," said President Welter, including for one instant in his now frankly menacing gaze both Trent and Professor Schmelch. He turned to the door, closely followed by his companions. And a moment later the quick explosions of his automobile were heard. At the sound, Trent seized suddenly a large envelope, dropped into it the photograph and wire he had just used, sealed, signed and dated it. Signed and dated also the record from the instruments, and hurriedly handed all to Dr. Ennerly. "Doctor, I trust this to you," he cried excitedly. "It will be best to have them attested by all three of you. If possible, get the record photographed tonight, and distribute the photographs in safe places. Above all, do not let the record itself out of your hands until I come for it. It is important, extremely important. As for me, I have not a moment to lose." The young psychologist sped down the stone steps of the laboratory 3 at a time, ran at top speed to the nearest street corner, turned it, and leaped into a waiting automobile. "The American Commodities Company's docks in Brooklyn," he shouted, "and never mind the speed limits." Rutland and the chauffeur, awaiting him in the machine, galvanized at his coming. "Hard work?" the customs agent asked. "It may be very hard, but we have the start of him," Trent replied as the car shot ahead. "Walter himself is coming to the docks tonight, I think, by the look of him. He left just before me, but must drop his friends first. He suspects now that we know, but he cannot be aware that we know that they are unloading tonight. He probably counts on our waiting to catch them at the cheating tomorrow morning. So he is going over tonight himself, if I size him up right, to order it stopped, and remove all traces before we can prove anything. Is Dicky waiting? When you give the word, he is to take us in and catch them at it. If Welter himself comes, as you think, it will not change the plan," Rutland replied. "Not at all," said Trent, "for I have him already. He will deny everything, of course, but it's too late now." The big car, with unchecked speed, swung down Broadway, slowed after a 20 minutes run to cross the Brooklyn Bridge, and turning to the left, plunged once more at high speed into the narrower and less well-kept thoroughfares of the Brooklyn waterfront. 2 minutes later it overtook a little electric coupe, bobbing excitedly down the sloping street. As they passed it, Trent caught sight of the illuminated number hanging at its rear, and shouted suddenly to the chauffeur, who brought the big motor to a stop 100 feet beyond. The psychologist, leaping down, ran into the road before the little car. "Miss Rowan," he cried to its single occupant as it came to a stop, "why are you coming over here at this time tonight? Oh, it's you, Mr. Trent." She opened the door, showing relief in the recognition. "Oh, I am so worried. I am on my way to see father, for a telegram just came to him from Boston. Mother opened it and told me to take it to him at once, as it was most important. She wouldn't tell me what it was about, but it excited her a great deal. Oh, I am so afraid it must be about Will, and that was why she wouldn't tell me." "From Boston?" Trent pressed quickly. Having her confidence, the girl nervously read the telegram aloud by the light of the coupe's side lamps. It read, "Police have taken your friend out of your hands. Look out for trouble, Wilson." "Who is Wilson?" Trent demanded. "I am not sure it is the man, but the captain of the Elizabethan Age is a friend of father's, named Wilson." "I can't help you then, after all," said Trent, springing back to his powerful car. He whispered a word to the chauffeur, which sent it driving ahead through the drifts at double its former speed, leaving the little electric coupe far behind. 10 minutes later, Rutland stopped the motor a block short of a great lighted doorway, which suddenly showed in a length of dark, lowering buildings which lay beside the American Commodity Company's Brooklyn docks. "Now," the secret agent volunteered, "it is up to me to find Dickie's ladder." He guided Trent down a narrow, dark court which brought them face to face with a blank wall. Against this wall a light ladder had been recently placed. Ascending it, they came into the dock's enclosure.